What do you mean?
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
From her What Do You Mean channel.
So you stupid, squishy meat sacks have an addiction to carbon dioxide and methane. Well, yet better cut down and burn down the fucking Amazon. You only need trees to breathe, and the hotter it gets, the worse the fires are. The worse the fires are, the more damage to the environment, which will then cause everything to get hotter. Fantastic. Well done, Earthlings. Especially you rich ones. The ones profiting off of all this. Fucking nice. Hope it was worth it. Killing everyone else. This isn't a natural disaster. Farmers and loggers are clearing land for cattle and mining. Things that we definitely do not need more of. Now, this year there's 74,000 reported fires so far in Brazil. It's understandable when there's that many, to the point where the smoke can be seen from space. And yes, fires have always happened. That's an important point, which I was just about to mention, because it's necessary to have this information of the 74,000 fires in Brazil in 2019 compared to 2018, where they had 40,000. Imagine if this trend continues on to next year. What would that be? We'll just say 130, 140,000. And that's just like the number of fires. It's not really telling us how much area it's taking. Oh yeah, area, that's another good contrast, just to help wrap your mind around it to people that live on the same island as me. Australia is approximately 7,741,220 square kilometres, while Brazil is approximately 8,515,770 square kilometres. Now, this is a great little fact for anyone that's all like, nah, Australia's full. Brazil has that little bit more land space than we do, which once was rainforest. Australia's population, roughly 24.6 million in 2017. Brazil in 2017, 209 million. Just saying. Now, alright, in such a catastrophic event where the Earth's lung, place where we get 20% of our air, is being fucked over, what does the leader of that country say? Let's have a look. Regarding the fires in the Amazon, I am under the impression that it could have been set by NGOs because they had asked for money. An NGO is a non-government organisation, a non-profit organisation, usually with a social cause. That was their intention, to bring about a problem for Brazil. Now that's an old classic that these shithead politicians, no matter what country they're in, seem to always go to. Cause a problem, probably with some sort of deregulations and in the name of greed, and then blame the groups that were probably trying to stop them. Like the Australian government trying to blame infrastructure delays or faults on trade unions. They try to do a double whammy. Dodge the blame for the problem they caused and reflect it at the person trying to prevent it, or the organisation or group prevent it. Oh. Back to Brazil, for anyone that's not too into Brazilian politics, here's some choice quotes from their current president. In a speech he made in 2017, Bolsonaro spoke out about a black settlement in Brazil founded by the descendants of slaves. Quote, they do nothing. They're not even good for procreation. In 2014, Bolsonaro got in a heated exchange with a congresswoman. Quote, I wouldn't rape you because you don't deserve it. That was his response to the congresswoman as she claimed that he encourages rape. He later said that he is not a rapist, but if he were, he would not rape this congresswoman because she's ugly and not his type. In a Playboy magazine interview in 2011, Bolsonaro said he would be incapable of loving a homosexual son. Quote, I would prefer my son to die in an accident. Quote, the dictatorship's mistake was to torture but not kill. 2016. So yeah, he said horrible things about trans people, people of color, women. Pretty sure he's like caused more guns to circulate in Brazil. I'm not sure if the number of shootings have gone up. I haven't checked, but I've been aware of more shootings happening recently in Brazil. And another achievement unlocked by Bolsonaro is by allowing the agriculture industry in Brazil to use pesticides that are usually banned everywhere else, probably because they seem to contain ingredients that are known to have human carcinogens. And carcinogen means causes cancer. You can't expect everyone to know everything. So pesticides that cause human cancer. But besides that, they're just flooding everything with them, and I think in 2019, 500 million bees have died in Brazil. No, trees and bees, the two things we've been told we need a lot more of. It didn't have to be this way. Bolsonaro would not have won the election. Anybody that found this show through TMBS, you know exactly where this is going, but anybody else that didn't, I encourage you to, if you post anything about the fires in Brazil, chuck a hashtag free Lula in there. Lula Libre. And this is like, don't think I could do justice, especially when it's been done so well and so passionately before. Here's a bit from the 52nd episode of TMBS, Michael Brooks on Lula da Silva.
But the reality is that this guy was put in jail during Brazil's military junta years because he was a labor union leader. He came from absolutely nothing to become president and really arguably be the best president in modern politics in terms of what he delivered for his people. And it's not just that Brazil's rightward shift has stakes for the United States. Okay, so going back to 2009, when the Honduras coup, which removed Manuel Zelaya from power, and the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton, at the very least, looked the other way on, if not, in Clinton's case, were fairly complacent with, to the fact that Bolsonaro, who is polling second to Lula, after being imprisoned on the flimsiest of evidence and being kept from speaking to the public, still leads the polls. He is the leading candidate for president in Brazil, hands down. The second to him is a guy named Bolsonaro, who has talked about the reason that Brazil has problems is because of Africans and indigenous people. He told a woman journalist that she wasn't good enough looking to rape. And his son recently took a picture with Steve Bannon and said, you know, essentially with a caption of like, we have the same politics. And Mattis is in Brazil right now talking about heightened military cooperation with Brazil. Brazil is a regional power in Latin America, and this story matters in and of itself, but it is globally connected to whether we keep syncing up hard right neoliberal to potentially literally fascistic regimes, or we begin reversing these things. And Lula is not only was an incredibly successful president, and not only is the case against him unbelievably questionable, he's also of those movements like the Landless Peoples Movement, the Global Union Movement, which is why he has support from everything from NUMSA in South Africa to the AFL-CIO here. So it really matters. And tomorrow, the Workers' Party is going to petition the Supreme Court, which has denied, Lula's right to habeas corpus, which has sentenced him to prison before any of his appeals have been exhausted. And he has been, as I say, sentenced in such a manner where nothing has actually been proven. This is all conjecture and part of a much broader corruption investigation, which has dug up much more serious things about things like the current president who is serving right now, talking about bribing people. The Temer government has instituted a mass austerity program, which has meant that Brazil under Lula, which eliminated hunger as an example, is tumbling right back down in UN indicators. So let's play. Yeah, we can play the footage now. But Lula, in addition, this is some footage of Lula. So the petition is tomorrow, and today in the New York Times, Lula published a column called "There's a Right-Wing Coup Underway in Brazil." And he writes, 16 years ago, Brazil was in crisis. The future was uncertain, and our dreams of developing into one of the world's most prosperous and democratic countries seemed imperiled. The idea that one day our citizens might enjoy the comfortable living standards of our peers in the Europe and Western democracy seem to be fading away. Less than 2 decades after the dictatorship ended, some wounds from that period were still raw. He goes on to talk about getting elected in 2002 as the first labor union leader elected president in Brazil. And he says, here's some of the things that he did in his 2, and again, very moderate terms. The minimum wage was increased by 50%. Our Bolsa Familia program, which insisted impoverished families while simultaneously ensuring the children received quality education, won international renown. We proved that fighting poverty was good economic policy. And then he talks about how our progress was interrupted not through the ballot box. Though Brazil has free and fair elections, instead, President Dilma Rousseff was impeached and removed from office for an action that even her opponents admitted was not an impeachable offense. Then I, too, was sent to prison after a dubious trial on corruption and money laundering charges. My imprisonment is the latest phase of a slow-motion coup designed to permanently marginalize progressive forces in Brazil. It's intended to prevent the Workers' Party from again being elected to the presidency. And, of course, the Workers' Party has won 4 elections in a row. No right-wing forces in Brazil have actually won anything. He goes on to say the right-wing forces in Brazil have wasted no time in implementing their agenda. The deeply unpopular administration of President Michel Temer has approved a constitutional amendment that puts a 20-year cap on public spending and has enacted various changes in labor laws that will ease outsourcing and weaken workers' bargaining rights and even their right to an 8-day work week. I do not feel sorry for myself. I've been in jail before under Brazil's military dictatorship for nothing more than defending workers' rights. The dictatorship fell. The people who are abusing their power today will also fall. I don't want asked to be above the law, but the trial must be free, fair, and impartial. These right-wing forces convicted me and imprisoned me, ignoring the overwhelming evidence of my innocence and deny me habeas corpus only to try to stop me from running for the presidency. I ask for respect for democracy, and if they want to defeat me for real, do it in the elections. So that's President Lula, and we need to have solidarity with left forces in Brazil and with Lula and the landless movement and the union movement and the people trying to find justice for Marielle Franco, who was assassinated by right-wing paramilitary and gang forces connected with the police in Brazil. We need to do that. It matters in and of itself, and it has major implications for how we're synchronizing the global system.